What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Everything starts with ball pressure. There are these pivot points. I just talked about one involving Turner and Siakam attacking smalls. These pivot points to me are these like tests that Oklahoma City's defense makes you pass. And at any one of these pivot points, Indiana's offense could break. And if Indiana's offense breaks at any of these pivot points, this thing is so over, it's not even funny. Like, we're talking, could be a sweep if any of these pivot points ends up breaking for Indiana. So the first pivot point is just getting the ball up the floor. In the regular season, again, the Pacers were a very good team at taking care of the basketball. Here are some basic stats to kind of demonstrate that for you guys. The Pacers were the third best team in the NBA at taking care of the basketball overall, turning the ball over just 13.2 times per game. The Pacers actually did a little bit better even against Oklahoma City, worth mentioning, just 12 turnovers per game in those two games. Among all teams who played against the Thunder this season, only the Sacramento Kings did a better job of taking care of the basketball against the Thunder. But this is a playoff matchup. In the regular season, the Thunder averaged 17 forced turnovers and 21.8 points off of turnovers. In the playoffs, that goes up to 18 turnovers and 23.8 points off of turnovers. They have stepped it up. Minnesota averaged 19.3 turnovers a game in the four losses, 19.3 turnovers and 23.3 points allowed off of turnovers. Denver, in their four losses, 18.5 turnovers, 26.3 points off of turnovers. Oklahoma City has been winning games in this postseason by turning teams over and getting out in transition. That is the first breaking point of this series, whether or not they can handle ball pressure and get the ball up the floor. I expect Oklahoma City to come out with a very aggressive ball pressure scheme with the added layer of denying Tyrese Haliburton whenever they can. Between Nembhard, Nesmith, Haliburton, McConnell, Siakam, any guy who could theoretically bring the ball up the floor, they have to be sharp, using their body to protect the ball and prevent the easy pick sixes that can occur out at half court. There are a couple of tricks that they can use to help handle ball pressure on the way up the floor. The obvious one is kick-ahead passes. If you ever see, like, Indiana runs their lane so religiously. If you see an opportunity to throw a kick-ahead, make it, because then you don't have to bring it up against pressure. But the trick there is, again, you have to be cognizant of Oklahoma City playing those transition passing lanes and forcing turnovers in those situations. The less obvious one is target the Oklahoma City defenders that aren't as good at forcing turnovers. So like Chet. Chet's on the floor. Let's say they do go big and Hartenstein's on the floor guarding Turner and Chet's guarding Siakam. Have Siakam bring the ball up the floor against Chet. Chet's not as good at applying full court pressure and ripping the ball away from a live ball handler, right? A couple of their perimeter guys, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe. These are two guys that get far fewer steals compared to the other primary defenders for Oklahoma City. Shea gets a lot of steals, but primarily in off-ball situations. You could have Nesmith bring the ball up the floor. Shea wants to waste a bunch of energy trying to turn his man 5 times on his way up the floor. That's his prerogative. He's also not as good at just getting those live ball steals as some of those other guys that they have. So those are simple ways to try to alleviate that full court pressure. The second breaking point in terms of the pressure defense from Oklahoma City is high and low post entries. We talked about this a lot in this postseason run after the Denver series, in the Minnesota series. Oklahoma City in the regular season actually did quite a bit of switching with Hartenstein in ball screens. There were traditional coverages, but switches were mixed in. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Oklahoma City went small a lot, which means in this series, there will be a lot of situations where Turner or Siakam is matched up against a small. Just like Julius Randle got. Just like Naz Reid got. Just like Aaron Gordon got. Just like Nikola Jokic got. And what did we see in those series? Turnovers on post entries. Over and over again. Even for Nikola Jokic, one of the best positional bigs in terms of creating passing angles, Game 7 literally turned on the inability to get Jokic the ball because of Alex Caruso and his disruption on post entries. And guess what? In the film session, Indiana had similar turnovers against Oklahoma City in this regular season. There's a play where Miles Turner had a deep seal against Kason Wallace under the basket. And Kason's trying to three-quarter front around the left side, and Miles is trying to back him down to create that passing angle. And right as he's backing him down, Obi Toppin throws the pass, and it's kind of in that gap right as Miles Turner's backing, and it just goes out of bounds. Turnover. You see a play where Pascal Siakam is posting up on the right block, and the defender's full fronting the post, and he's creating that over-the-top passing angle. Pass goes up. Dude comes shooting in from behind that post bracket that we always talk about with the Miami Heat, where that window just suddenly disappears as a defender comes flying in from behind and steals that ball. Even on plays when they get the ball into the post, the immediate swarming can cause turnovers as well. This is the second breaking point. If they can't actually get the ball to their size advantages, then they have very little chance of scoring against Oklahoma City when they start to switch. And so again, step one, getting the ball across half court into their offense. Step two, actually getting the ball in their post entries and high post entries to their size advantages. Now, before we talk about the third breaking point, it's at least worth mentioning the statistical performance of Oklahoma City's previous playoff opponents. Denver and Minnesota and Memphis were all in the bottom half of the NBA this year in turnovers per game. These are all high turnover teams. Indiana was third. They're just better at taking care of the ball. So it's very possible that these dynamics that we're talking about are less impactful in this series. But again, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. It's more physical. It's more intense. This is a way better defense than anyone Indiana has played to this point. They still need to pass that test. No one gets to hold up the NBA.com page and just be like, oh, hey, look, we don't get any turnovers in the finals because we didn't turn it over for the first 6 months of the season. You got to do it in this series, in these stakes, in this physicality. The third breaking point of the series will be what happens if Indiana doesn't turn the ball over. I'd break this down into two categories. It's all play finishing. One-on-one scoring and contested catch-and-shoot shooting. And this will depend on what coverages Oklahoma City uses throughout the series. We're going to see a lot of everything. We saw both teams run zone against each other in the regular season. We saw traditional coverages. We saw switching. I think Oklahoma City will start aggressive and in traditional coverages up at the level. In those situations, if Indiana cannot turn the ball over and pass the ball through the defense, it will be on everyone to knock down contested catch-and-shoot jumpers. This Thunder team is extremely fast, and they are excellent with their closeouts. They will use their speed to make you uncomfortable. So guys are going to have to hit shots anyway under that sort of defensive pressure. And then, if Indiana can pass and shoot Oklahoma City out of their baseline coverage, and Oklahoma City starts switching and starts staying home off ball, in that case, it will be on guys like Haliburton and Siakam, and to a lesser extent, Miles Turner, Ben Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, for those guys to either beat their man off the dribble and draw help, or to score the basketball one-on-one. If Indiana can survive the main breaking points of the series, again, getting the ball across half court, not fucking up their post entries, and knocking down catch-and-shoot shots when they're open, it will degenerate down into a one-on-one contest, and everything will come down to those guys and their ability to score there. Siakam is going to be the huge key here. We're going to talk about it in our prediction, but any chance Indiana has to win this series, I think, depends on Pascal Siakam being Finals MVP. A lot of 4 or 5 ball screens to try to get him switched on specifically Chet. I like him on Hartenstein as well. But getting into these situations where he has a chance to attack a big in space away from the rim or a small close to the rim, those are his major advantages. And then with Tyrese Haliburton, in the second game in particular, he was actually able to hit quite a few threes, and that unlocked some more of his dribble drive game. Everything's going to be about him hitting enough of those threes to where he can actually get dribble penetration. A lot of the usual damage that Indiana's offense does will be substantially less effective in this series. The relentless transition pushes, those kick-aheads. We just showed a whole video in playback on Saturday night of how they killed the Knicks with that kind of stuff. Oklahoma City was the second best transition defense in the NBA in the regular season, per Cleaning the Glasses transition catch-all metric. They're super athletic, playing in that plane of existence, and they just have such good floor balance. They're always ready to get back. All of that whirling half-court action that Indiana runs. The Thunder will botch switches. They'll miss rotations, but far less often than other teams. And their speed closes gaps way quicker than other teams. They won't get as many of the easy runouts that they get from their ball pressure turnovers that flow into those transition sequences. Why? Because Oklahoma City is literally the best team in the league at taking care of the basketball. Indiana will have to rely on individual greatness more in this matchup than they have in any other series to this point. And I would argue that's far from the strength of this particular basketball team. Last thing I want to talk about before we go to Oklahoma City on offense is Tyrese Haliburton and what happens when he goes passive. We talked about it earlier, but his usage rate in this series is about half what it was against other matchups in the regular season. We watched in the crunch time video on playback, but it's a consistent theme throughout both of these games. He just isn't very aggressive. And there's a lot of him standing around off the ball. And in those situations, he just has to find a way to stay more involved in the offense. He had a layup in crunch time of the game that they almost won, the one where they were up 107-103. The shot that he hit to put them up 107-103 with it was 3 minutes left before Oklahoma City walked him down, came out of a stack pick and roll where he was the screener that was starting underneath the basket. So it was Nembhard up top, and I'm pretty sure Turner was the one setting the screen. And as Turner set the screen and as Nembhard came off, Tyrese Haliburton back screened for the roll man and then relocated out to the left wing. And in the process, he generated himself a closeout opportunity. In that closeout opportunity, he was able to beat his man off the dribble and make a little floater that crawled over the front of the rim. And that put the Pacers up by 4. That dynamic, and not just in 3-man action, but even in 2-man game, keeping himself involved as a screener is going to be key, because when he sets screens, he forces his man to actually react. And if he doesn't, then you have a different kind of opening that occurs. Pascal Siakam hit a pull-up 3. I've watched so much film this morning that I can't even remember which game it was in. But one of the games, Tyrese Haliburton goes and he's getting kind of hugged by Lou Dort. And when he goes and sets a screen for Pascal Siakam, Lou Dort just stays hugged up on Haliburton. And so as Siakam comes off of the ball screen, all of a sudden he's wide open because Haliburton set the screen and his man didn't want to help. And so he rose up into a wide open dribble, off the dribble 3 at the top of the key, and he knocked it down. So again, when Haliburton is being played out of the game by ball pressure, which that's a whole other separate thing that he needs to not allow that to happen. But let's say he loses his confidence dribbling in this matchup, he's got to stay involved as a screener. He cannot allow himself to become a spectator in this matchup.